Before you start filming, you'll want to fill out a risk assessment form so that you're aware of all the risks and hazards that may occur and can put procedures in place in case of occurrence. You can use the risk rating matrix table to identify how high the risk is. You do this by finding out the likelihood of a risk and the severity of it and finding out on the table where the two meet. If there is a high risk of something happening, you must not go ahead with it until control is put in place that will lower the level of risk. For additional safety, you might want to have a cast and crew brief before filming to go through potential risks and even designate a safety point in case anything goes terribly wrong. When you're filming on location, you're going to want to make sure all of your gear is in a safe place where it won't get stolen or damaged, and you also want to make sure it won't get in the way of anyone that's going to be filming. You might also want to take down any cables that people may be walking over to reduce the likelihood of them tripping over it. Before you start filming, you need to check you've got the exposure set correctly. There are three things on the camera you can use to control this: the ISO, the aperture, and the shutter speed. The ISO. The higher your ISO is, the more sensitive your camera sensor is to light. So the lighter your image is, the lower the ISO, and the darker your image is, the higher the ISO. However, if your ISO is set high, this will make your image far more grainy. The aperture is the amount of light being let into the lens. It also controls the depth of field. Aperture is measured with f-stops. The lower the f-stop, the bigger the iris is. This will let in a lot of light and give you a shallow depth of field. And the higher the f-stop is, the smaller the iris is, and this will give you a deeper depth of field. When you're filming in sunlight, you'll want to have your iris quite close so that the light doesn't flood the image. And when you're filming in darkness, you want to have the iris open as wide as you can get to let in all the light that's around. The other thing that affects the exposure is shutter speed. This is the amount of time the shutter is open. So, for example, if your shutter is set at 1/25th of a second, this will let a lot of light in. However, if it's set for 1/4000th of a second, this won't let a lot of light in at all. When you're filming, you're going to want to use a tripod for nice still shots. Going handheld can make your shots extremely shaky sometimes. You can adjust the legs to the height you want and then secure them so it doesn't fall and won't damage your equipment. You can check the spirit levels on the tripod so that your image won't be wonky. Once you've set up the exposure and got your camera on your tripod, you might want to adjust the white balance before you start filming. This can be done by zooming into a piece of card or item of clothing and setting this as the white. When you're checking the lights, you're going to want to make sure you always touch the stand with the back of your hand, as electricity contracts muscles, and if there's electricity running through it. So if you touch it with the palm of your hand, your muscles are going to contract and get stuck around the stand. However, if you touch it with the back of your hand, your muscles will jerk away from it. When you're touching lights, you're always going to want to touch the lights while wearing gloves. Firstly, because these can get extremely hot and you don't want to burn yourself. Also, because the oils on our fingertips can make their way into the glass and eventually cause your lights to explode. You should always make sure the cable is under the leg of the stand, so that if anyone trips over it, it'll simply pull along the floor and won't fall over and break your equipment. Before you switch on your lights, you're going to want to shout something to warn everyone in front of the light to look away. If you don't warn them to look away, they may be blinded by the bright light, or if the light explodes, they may get glass shards in their eye. We can use lighting to change the mood or atmosphere of a scene. We can do this with the placement of the light, or we can use color gels. When the light is turned on, it may appear quite strong and have quite strong shadows, so you may want to use diffusion to create a more natural light and make your shadows softer. Other things we can use in front of lights are NDs, which can darken the light. We can also use gels in front of the light, which can change the atmosphere of a scene, or we can use scrims, which can be slotted in front of the light and can be used to take the light down a stop or half stop. When you're recording sound, you want to use the sound recorded on your camera, as the sound quality of these is normally very poor. You'll want to use external mics. You might also want to use an SPN sound mixer. This sound mixer has 4 inputs and 2 outputs. When you plug in the microphones, first of all, you're going to have to check if they need electricity. Dynamic and resonant mics won't need electricity, but others may require phantom power, which is 48 volts sent to the microphones from the mixer in order to power them. When you're using an SPM mixer, you're going to want to always have the most important track on track 1, the left-hand channel, which you can identify by the red tape around it. Track 2 will be the right-hand channel, which can be identified by green tape. So for example, if you're carrying out an interview, you'll always want to have your interviewee on track 1. On the front of the box, there are 2 meters called ppms. In the front of the box, there are 2 meters called ppms. They have a scale from 1 to 7. When you're recording it, you don't ever want to go past 6 as it's far too loud. 4 or 5 is normally ideal. There's also a switch on the front that looks like a little set of stairs. This is the base switch. This is very useful and can be turned on to cut out background noise such as cars and traffic. If your signal is too loud, you can turn on the attenuation switch. This is the opposite of amplification and can weaken your signal. One last thing you'll want to check before you start recording is the tone. You flip the switch in the corner of the mixer, which is labelled T. It will play the tone, and the needle on the front of the block should go directly up to 4. One of the major things to be careful about when you're recording sound and wearing headphones is to make sure that you can still hear the world around you. If you block out your surroundings, you may not be aware of what is happening and may accidentally miss some instructions, or you could injure yourself. For example, stepping in front of a car as you can use histograms to check if your image is underexposed or overexposed. You can find your histogram on your DSLR by pressing navigate until you come to it. It will show you a graph which shows you all the highlights and all the darks. On the right of the histogram, you'll be able to see the whites, on the left the blacks, and in the middle the greys. If your blacks are out of range, the image will be underexposed and your blacks won't have any detail in them. If your white is out of range, your image is going to be overexposed and too bright. For video and audio monitoring, sometimes a waveform monitor is used. This will show you the picture you're recording, the audio monitor, the video monitor, and the digital signal table. The video monitor will describe the color in the scene using 3 separate components: the luminance, the color blueness, and the color redness. If the waveform monitor is too far from your camera, the signals will get jumbled and fail. The diamond display shows color info. The colors outside the range are known as illegal colors and can't be displayed properly. With the vector display, we can also monitor our colors. The color bars are shown as 7 dots. Any color outside these aren't allowed. The further out the dot is from the center can also tell you how saturated the color will be. With analog video, cables were used to carry the video and audio. If the signal was being carried on a long cable, the picture would become distorted, which is why we created composite and component video. Composite video can carry the signal further and produces red, green, and blue video signals, which are combined by PAL to create a color picture. PAL is created by combining the luminance, which is the black and white signal, with the chrominance. The downside to a composite video is that it can be quite degraded. When a video carries its colors in black and white, blue and red, it is frequently known as YCB-CR. Y as the black and white, CB for color blue, and CR for color red. In standard definition, there is 30% of Y, 59% of R, and 11% of blue. In high definition, there's 21% of Y, 72% of R, and 7% of blue. MAM system stands for Media Asset Management. The MAM system captures media content and links it to a metadata record in the system. You can tag the media content you have in the system, which can make it easier to be found by others or by yourself at a later date. Having an MAM system allows for several people across the country or across the world to work on the same data at the same time. That is handy, I guess. The main two programs we use for editing are Final Cut X and Premiere Pro. With this software, we can easily import clips and piece them together to create a story. We can quickly and easily create montages, have jump cuts, use transitions, add filters, add audio, or add sound effects. First, you start by importing your clips into the program. Then you cut them to the size you need and place them in the timeline. We can then modify it to however way we want. We can also quickly and easily speed clips up and slow them down. If we want to add more effects or create titles, we can use After Effects. If you're working with Final Cut, you'll have to export your clip and import it into After Effects. But if you're working with Premiere Pro, you can work directly from your timeline and save it back into your timeline quickly and easily. You can use After Effects to add sun, rain, snow. Quickly and easily change the background if you're working with green screen. Take out coffee cups and other things you don't want to have in your scene, or add planes or explosions or gunshots. There's really no limit to what you can do with After Effects if you just keep experimenting with it.